Everybody have a stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Dan Pillow.
Here.
Jennifer Wiggy. Jennifer Anderson. Here. Ann Pillow.
Here.
Al Glick. Pam Jackson. Here.
All right. So we're going to open this meeting up starting with, it's about the Sekitan Avenue Stabilization Project. We're in our preliminary drawings, and this is our public hearing so that we can answer any questions or explain what's going on up there. And we work with CT Consultants, and our engineer is Sean Riggs, and we have Sean Riggs here with us today to field any questions, and I'm just going to turn it over to him to give introductions on what's going on. Sean?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So, as you know, this has been a project a long time in the making. I think when I started working with the village about 4 years ago when we first met. 5 years ago, oh my gosh. This was something that it just started to really show signs of deterioration. We wasn't really sure what was happening with the soil underneath, but we had a good feeling it was a slip, very similar to what happened on First Street. That's been somewhat recently repaired, and that's a longer story, but we're still working on it. This project in particular, we were able to take a little deeper look at it throughout the years. We've been monitoring it with pictures. We've been asking funding. Several funding requests have been made, grants. But we found one. We worked with FEMA. It's a federal emergency grant. It's actually a BRIC grant, and it's Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program. So that FEMA grant is aimed to correct issues before they really happen. Something disastrous happens, like the whole hillside slips. Not saying that would happen necessarily, but that's what the grant's there for. So we were awarded that grant to take a closer look, do some studies, geotechnical studies and engineering to stabilize Sekitan Avenue and also make some roadway improvements. So I think we got that grant late 2021 and maybe early 22, somewhere around that time. But we did enter into agreement. We finally, all the funding paperwork had to go through. So it took a little bit, and then November 21st of 2022, we actually started our preliminary design process. Then in April of 2023, we finally have the geotechnical report. We were working. It took a long time to get all the survey for the project, the corridor, and geotech studies, because we put in borings that were inclinometer readings, so it wasn't just a one-time drill and test the soil. We were actually monitoring the soil movement over a period of time. So based on those the geotech report, they determined that the soil was moving, it was consistent with the slip, and that it was relatively on just like a lot of the slips around here, on the plane where the rock is, the bedrock, then you have what the shale, and that's what's all around this region. That once it gets wet, it really deteriorates and just starts to move on you. So it's unfortunately not uncommon in this area to happen. But we looked at, they provided options to correct the issue. It went from drill shaft pier wall, what is being proposed in some locations currently. We looked at options to just excavate the road completely, excavate a road to a certain portion, do some sort of shallow depth repairs. And ultimately there was the feasibility of a lot of those options, like excavating the road would just require, you couldn't maintain traffic, you couldn't maintain access to properties, it was just eliminated. So the drill shaft pier wall is the best option, is what was recommended. And that's what's included in the plans today. So since that time, we took the plans that we drafted, the exact same plans, and we, last month had a utility coordination meeting. So we had everyone that has utilities out there in a room, we talk through what would need to happen. One of the issues with the pier wall is that they require pretty much however deep it's underground is how much it's gonna be sticking out of the air for a minute. And that's where the overhead utility lines currently are. So they would have to relocate portions of those overhead utility lines. So Duke is working on that. Duke Energy owns the poles, then everybody else, once Duke moves, everybody else sort of follows. So theoretically. Yeah, so it takes a long time, like First Street, for example. How long were we, about a year?
Oh my goodness, it was terrible.
And we're
It
still
took
not
us a
done
long
with
time.
MSD on that one.
We're still not done with that one.
But it does take a long time, so we're getting this process started now, and they're working on it concurrently with our design. So the purpose of today is just get everyone in the room today that has interest in the project, make sure that we're not missing anything, that we're not, you know, thinking about maintaining access or looking at utility service, or answer any questions in general about the project. Like I said before, the project is funded with FEMA federal dollars for the design. We also have another project, I guess through other efforts, we've been able to actually gain funding to replace the water main. It's a small diameter water main now. Services are quite old. I think the water main's over 100 years old on that street. So while we're replacing the road, this is the time to replace all the utilities. So ideally, it would be a brand new utility infrastructure improvement project, which would be great because you're spending this much money, might as well do it right. So we have not begun the water line design just yet because we wanted to make sure that we're not tripping over each other. The utilities, we know where they're going to go. We know the impacts of the properties and how access management, you know, make sure we maintain access to all the properties during construction, how we're going to address that before we move the water line. So the water line will be designed with the next step, basically after this meeting, close to it. Then we'll do like a report of what our recommendations are to advance to final design. And then once we go into that, unfortunately, we don't have construction funding for either the stabilization project or, you know, roadway improvements or water main. But we're going to be pursuing those. With the way we're developing the plans to this level of detail, we have been able to put together good estimates. We'll have a really good handle on the construction schedule. So all that's very important going into final construction dollars. So that's, I think I hit all the highlights. So I did mention timeline. So after sometime mid-late October, we'll have a preliminary plan submission that would reflect all the comments we received from utilities, all the comments from today. Then we'll make a selection come November to advance to final design. Then the schedule after that's just, it's more tentative, but ideally we would have around April of next year, a final, 90% plans. And I would say final because there may be some easements required, there may be some utilities we have to still mess with, but generally it'll be to a point where 90% plans is to a point where we have a good handle on what the utility and right-of-way needs are, or easements. So we don't have a plan to wrap up design because we don't have any construction funds yet. So we don't want to get ahead of ourselves too far. That's it in general, an overview of the project. There are plans floating around. We have a larger set there we can come through, but the plans are preliminary. I would say at this stage you're probably close to like a 30% level. So they really show design intent more so than any real construction detail, and nothing's permanent at this point. These are good ideas, essentially. So, I welcome any feedback you have. I mean, I can answer whatever questions we have. I think maybe as a group, it'd be best to sort of keep questions general. Then if you're specifically interested about your property, just, we can talk after the meeting, or we can break up into small groups, however you wanna do it, but, I'm here, so.
Is the rock wall staying? Or
On the,
will it be, or is it gonna be widened?
Right now, the rock wall, the part up on the uphill side would stay. There may be some repairs needed, but,
I mean, if it just starts crumbling in.
yeah. Right now, we're planning not to impact it.
Are you, when you re-blacktop it, are you gonna put the swell in? There was, used to be a swell right by the wall, and the water ran down, and when you re-blacktopped it, some of the people didn't want it because they had to clean it, so they got rid of it, and that's where the water problem started. 'Cause
Yeah.
There's natural springs up there on the hill.
Yeah, that's something that we're gonna have to look into a little further. We can work within the wall and the right of way, and that's the sheet flow drainage that runs over top of the wall is a big part of the problem, and so we have to.
And one of the other problems is the maintenance guys, instead of weed eating, they spray weed killer, so they have to cut the grass, and it kills all the vegetation, and that's why you have dirt up there.
Yeah, that can, I mean, and we can look at maybe different type of plantings that's less, you don't have to mow it. So that's something that we can also.
Because I think the village from the wall up the hill is 13.6 inches, I think it is.
So the sidewalk will be redone to a point.
Yeah, so
If it's gonna be piered, you're gonna be,
right now, the pier will be below the sidewalk. So basically.
South side of the sidewalk?
Yes, and it's not, and I should be clear that we're not proposing a wall the whole length of the road. There's only 2 or 3 locations for a couple hundred feet each that where the wall would be.
Do you know the addresses about that area?
Um,
I'm sure it's on the plan, I haven't
Yeah.
seen it yet.
Yeah, I can give you general, let's see.
The addresses of the major impact of the area.
345, that's beginning of 345 going down to basically Bowman, right there at the corner, at 335. So there's one wall section. Then roughly 293 Sekitan, going all the way down to 253 Sekitan. And I believe that may be it. So the rest of the projects outside of those areas are probably more your typical resurfacing type project. We'll do spot curb repairs, we'll do milling, very similar to what we did on Main Street. We replacement of the sidewalks.
Right, because up where I live at the Ville, the sidewalk broke down, of course, when they tore down the house on Sekitan, the trucks pulled on the sidewalk, it broke the sidewalk
Yeah.
up. You can still go there and see tire tracks on the concrete.
Yeah. And yes,
And
ma'am.
so they should have, the village should have made the people that tore the house down redo the sidewalk.
Perhaps, yeah, I mean, it's unfortunately, that does happen quite a bit, though. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm here, we're representing our church, 330 Main Street,
Mhm.
and all the problem that's happening on Sekitan, it's affecting our property. Okay, and the one question that I have is, well, I was born and raised here, I don't know, some people might know, but nevertheless, I looked, it was 1887. I grew up here, we never had this problem, okay? So it started from somewhere, do you know where it started? Is it further up the hill over us that they moved the trees and things like that called shifting? Have you found out any of this information?
I can tell you
And
where it
then,
started from, was when they re-blacktop Sekitan, they took that swell out, so all the water ran over to the other side.
that sounds okay, but I think it's further uphill.
Yeah, and it's
I
hard
think
to,
it's further up.
With the geotechnical.
I think it's further up the hill. We will find out, but I come to see what you were saying, but we will find out, because I believe it's further up the hill than it started. And then if you fix Sekitan and fix all the things that you're saying, we have damage to our church. Now, who's responsible for that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm just looking at replacing or correcting Sekitan.
Yeah, well, you mentioned about, was it the property, Mac and Betty's place where it fell down? Did that affect that? Was that part of it?
I'm not.
And somebody know about Mac and Betty's?
We all know about Mac and
Yeah,
Betty.
he's looking like I have no clue what Mac and Betty's.
You don't know about Mac and
Address.
I know the address.
Was it the one on Main Street that?
Yes, did that affect that?
Yeah, because that happened right after we restarted this Main Street, I remember.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to find out what can we do and what's going on, because cracks are in our walls and our ceiling, and every Sunday we come, it's more cracks.
Yes, and I know there's been a lot of properties along Sekitan that have been since demoed.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was related to the foundation issues or the stability issues of Sekitan, but this project is to stabilize Sekitan Road. It doesn't stabilize the houses below it. This is only for the road. In fact, the pier wall is at the sidewalk.
Well, the problem that's happening on Sekitan is affecting the houses below. It
And this-
definitely is.
The drainage part will definitely help, anything below, because right now
It
it all.
might help, but what about the problems we already have? You know, the structure and the cracking of the building. Somebody's at fault someplace.
Right, well, the scope of this project is to address the stability of Sekitan Avenue. I can't address private property, that was not part of the grant. Not saying that it couldn't be, or there could be a second project.
But it is part of the grant. Sekitan is affecting the lower Main Street.
Right, but I can only work inside the right of way of Sekitan Avenue. That's the intent at least. So, there are geotechnical issues that happen way deeper. But I'm sure there's multitude of reasons why Sekitan has started slipping, but in this area, it's just the nature of our soil, and rock. It does around here. Yes, sir.
Have you found the point where Sekitan has started slipping?
We do have a geotech report. It's not shown, I failed to bring a copy of it, but yes, it's quite deep. It's like 20 feet deep. That's where the rock plane is, where the shale generally meets that bedrock elevation.
And that's where it's slipping at.
Yes.
So we thought about putting some piers down, all the way down there, and then put a wall back behind it so it won't slip?
That's correct. Yeah, you bed those like a foot or two into the rock.
Right.
Just similar to what we did on First Street. I don't know how, it's hard to tell now, but at the time, same type of 30-inch diameter piers.
Mhm.
They have steel reinforcement in it,
Right,
and they go all the way down to rock, and that stabilizes whatever is uphill from it.
right.
So this would stabilize all the road essentially.
And that would be the point where it starts sliding.
Yes, yes, at that location, yes.
So what happens to the water once you dam it off below the ground?
Well, that's where we would do all the new storm drain and everything through there. So,
A lot of the water, like it's coming from Sekitan,
mhm.
up the hill, it's running down on us. That's why I can't understand why you said just Sekitan when it's affecting us.
We're addressing the water that comes off Sekitan. So when we build that wall, just like we did on First Street, there's a drainage system behind that wall, a subsurface drainage system. So that way, it does go out and around. We're not building a lot of water pressure.
Is that gonna be a direct path drain, or will it tie into existing?
It'll probably tie into existing at some locations. We haven't really figured all that out, but generally it would go to the creek.
Is MSD, will their sewers handle, like, when it's a heavy rain, the extra volume of water into those?
We work with
drains?
MSD, they're looking into it, because this is their storm sewer and sanitary sewer combined, so, they may be interested in doing a storm sanitary separation project.
Do we know how much water this is gonna be?
Not at this point.
Is the water able to be located higher up and rerouted as well?
Not within the scope of this project, because that's all on private property. But ideally, yes, you could put a diversion ditch behind some properties, but that's several private properties that would have to be negotiated with.
But if you,
That pier, the pier wall, is that gonna go on the south side of the sidewalk? So
It's going to go actually underneath.
it'll be underneath the sidewalk?
Yeah,
It
very
won't
similar to where
extend
the-
out at all?
It won't extend out back into the properties. It'll be basically where the pole line, the overhead utility lines are currently, then that new sidewalk will be, it'll serve as a cap to the pier wall. So you will never see it, but it will be there. Now, one of the challenges, unlike with First Street, where we only had like maybe one sewer connection, we'll have several, utility services that would have to go through the wall at some point. So we're working with all the utilities, Duke Gas, Duke Electric, the water, all to make sure that we're accommodating all the new services for existing properties and as well as the vacant properties. Because when someone wants to develop those, it'll be a little harder to get a service in with 30 inches of concrete.
Right, so what was the underground part that was mentioned in there?
The drain,
Utilities, like, the poles would be moved across the street, and then they would have to be tall enough to
yes.
be 12 feet.
So like the steel cage, essentially, they'll have to, they build that offsite, then they stand it upright, then they drop it in. So that's why the utility poles have to be moved. Then they put basically backfill that hole
So
with
then
concrete.
they put them back when they're done, or they just stay there?
They can do both ways. It sounds like Duke Energy's leaning permanently just to put them on the north side. But again, it won't be across the whole corridor. It'll just be boxed in to wherever those two.
Right, cause we're right where it's slipping bad, and the
Okay.
poles are already like leaning.
Yes.
Like this, so, you know, they've gotta be fixed, so I
Yeah.
was wondering what their plan was with that, and then, yeah.
Excuse me. Could you put drain pipes behind that wall? When the water come down, you hit the drain pipe behind that wall, and you, take it out to a sewage or wherever you wanna take it to get it, keep from going down the hill?
Yes, that is the plan. That is the plan, to catch everything before it gets to the wall. So
Right.
there'll be no buildup behind the wall, it won't go over the top of it.
Right.
It's all gonna go to, ideally, we would have a storm sewer separation project, but that hasn't been confirmed yet. We're still working with MSD.
So do we know for sure, we know that Sekitan is slipping, but do we know for sure that there's no slippage on Main Street area between there and Sekitan
We
to
have-
cause this slippage?
We have not investigated Main Street, but based on sort of general observations, that it's not, there's no slip on Main Street.
Yes, it is.
Well, the pavement's still in decent shape, so just based on pavement deterioration, I mean, we did resurface it, but before, there's nothing really that shows any significant movement. Not saying that there isn't, it just hasn't been investigated.
It is.
So how do we get that investigated?
That would be perhaps another grant. Unfortunately, geotech's quite expensive, but that's something that could happen. Yes.
There's a big container behind the church up above Main Street. And if that gives in, that big container will tear that whole church up.
Yeah, so
So,
we're trying to prevent that type of situation from happening. That's what FEMA building it's more of a proactive approach. So right now, it's obviously moving, nothing, FEMA generally jumps in when a disaster occurs. This is preventing that disaster from even coming close to occurring. That's the intent of the program, at least.
Oh, so also the height from the north side of the street and the south side of the street, where it finishes at the sidewalk, is that gonna be graded down or stay the same level?
It would
Maybe
generally
higher?
be about the same level. We have cross sections, they're very close to existing, that's,
Okay.
there are some areas like where it's dropped so much, where it's like a foot lower than what it's supposed to be, we'll have to fix that. But,
So are you gonna put drains on the south side?
yes,
Because if you don't, you better put the swell in because you'll have the same problem.
yes, yeah, we'll address drainage, with the project. It's just not shown at this stage, because we're more concentrated on where the structural part is, where the pier wall will be, then we'll work into the design of the.
Drainage would be huge, because there's a lot of water
Yeah.
on the heavy rains.
Yeah.
Especially-
Unfortunately,
I know some of the sewers struggle
Yeah.
to get it out, that's why I was asking about that.
yeah, we did ask
They do
MSD,
overflow on the really rough rains.
they wanted to have.
Well, it's coming from up above.
I
I have a
know,
question,
it
Mr.
is,
Shine.
it's all coming around.
Yeah.
So as I'm reading this letter, it says 25 homes and one church on Sekitan. Can you identify that church for me?
I can't remember, that was from the grant application, I'm assuming it was, the one right there at the corner of Bowman.
That would be your church.
So that is my church.
Yes.
Were we not notified that this was gonna take place? I am the treasurer and I get the mail. I did not receive any information about this, or that my church was even affected or might be affected by it.
I don't know
That's
if
kind of
we
disturbing.
had any notification there, well, we did have a presentation.
Yeah, we did during the council meeting, when I asked council for the special meeting, we posted it out here and on Facebook and our board outside.
I just feel that if your property is affected personally, I think we should have been identified and addressed personally before today.
Yeah, and that was some time ago, and that was.
Because had I not been on council, I would have never known this existed.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't
And
receive
I've only
a
been
personal
on
letter.
council since
Did you not see them
December.
drilling holes in the
So,
street?
Well, it's not the point.
that's not the point. I think that if we're listed in this letter, then we should have been addressed directly.
Excuse me,
As well as you, if that's where you live, but.
I agree, and the thing is, a lot of us do not have Facebook. I'm not a nosy person, I don't even know. But I feel like I
Facebook is
want to
not
be
business.
involved in this,
No.
somebody could have taken the
Somebody
time
could have
to
told
at
us.
least explain this to me. My other question is, that hill is slipping, okay? Mainly because of the rain and stuff, and those trees are older than God, okay? Well, the thing I've noticed is, in the last 7 years, we've had 3 trees just up, plop, and across the road. Okay? Now, where I live at 247, the village has, I'll just say, a makeshift wall there. Now, first of all, we got these little heathens in the hood that don't tore that wall down. Okay? And this is, I'm gonna just for a minute step over, because if Addyston Police Patrol Sekitan, am I right, you guys? We don't, the police don't patrol in our area. Getting back to that, if they were to patrol it, they would see destruction that has been made. They just tore a house down across the street from me, I don't know, maybe a month. Them little children have, first of all, I've grown up, brought 3 spare tires and threw them over there,
Right behind the straw bale.
right behind it. Then they have this great big pole sitting there. God, somebody's kids get hurt. I don't want to see that, all right? But, getting back to what I said, those hills, that hill was slipping. Yes, we've had 3 trees to fall across. One fell on his car, one fell right across the street from you, am I correct? All right? And then the one 2 doors up from me fell and actually hit the transformer. That, now, I don't know how high this wall is gonna be, but is that going to affect anything? Because those trees, they didn't come from like right here, they were a distance, came across the road, literally.
This wall, it won't be high as in like what you can see, it's deep more than
Right.
high. So it will stabilize from that point upwards. So it will help with the shift. Now, there may be localized other parts that move outside the wall, but just based on our geotech study that was done basically at the beginning of this year.
And my next question, excuse me, just one more. The next thing is, the sidewalk is much higher than it is where you all live. Let's correct it up,
Yeah. And all
okay?
that will be corrected.
You know, it's, I mean, I could literally fall off a brick, right? But,
When it rains, excuse me,
go ahead.
when it rains real hard, Sekitan in front of our house is a river. You can't even get off the sidewalk to get to your car without stepping in a foot of water.
I dropped my phone.
And I agree with Pastor Ragland. I can see the cracks in my house from day to day where it just keeps slipping further and further. And I agree with her, who's responsible for that damage? Is it my insurance company or the village or who?
I can't answer that, that may be something that.
And if you don't get the grant to do this work, how long are you gonna put it off?
Well, that's unfortunate, we can always go after FEMA funding again, because once you get the grant for design, you can always go back and do an implementation grant, so that's construction dollars. But they require that basically design is done, which, that's our goal. It's just no guarantee that we'll get anything, but we're not gonna quit pursuing not only FEMA, OPWC, any avenue that has funding out there, we're gonna look at.
You won't be raising taxes, will you?
Sean, I have a question. So I live on Sekitan as well, and I'm right in the middle of this mess.
Mhm.
And so when we bought the place, we completely redone it. And I've only lived there since 17, well, 18 when we moved in. And my house is already slipped to no end.
Yes.
So all the drywall's cracked, tile's cracked. So if tile's cracking, you know, there's serious problems. But, so my thing is, it's not so much where you're getting ready to fix it, it's the problem above us. It's behind us.
Exactly.
That's where
Yeah.
the true problem is,
That's right.
problem is coming from. So yes, you're getting ready to fix this, but
Exactly.
that's not gonna stop
Exactly.
the true problem. So what can we do? What is your suggestion?
That's right.
What we can do for the true problem
That's right.
for what's happening?
It's
Is what I think what everyone is
Right.
wondering.
Well, the stabilization of the hillside at the bottom theoretically should help the top from moving, right? I mean, it won't, like, the bottom can't move, nothing else can move with it. I mean, there'll be locations where things will shift and you know, not saying that another.
Right, but we're not starting at the bottom, we're starting in the middle.
Right, well, I'm referring to everything up beyond that.
So what you're saying is houses that you said, you're going to repair all those houses and the church. Are you saying that along with the road?
No houses
You're
are
not gonna- Okay, but you did mention so many houses and a church.
That's what's.
It's being affected.
Yeah.
Huh?
That's what's being affected.
That was, at the time of the original report, that was the area that we noted if significant pavement deterioration. We wasn't sure what was the slip. It could have been a multitude of things. But we did know that those areas that affected those 25 homes, I wouldn't get hung up on that number. Because the geotech report now gave the recommendations where to put the pier wall. And that's the, I guess for a number, those individual properties are the ones that are directly impacted by the stabilization of the roadway.
Which reminds me, what are you gonna do with us that's affecting what happens?
That's affected private property wise, like structural, that is something that we have to talk with the village and look at other avenues. Because right now, this project is only to address the stabilization of the road, the public right of way, all the utilities going into it.
You know, because Secretary is a hot mess.
Yes, ma'am.
I was born and raised on Secretary. Used to be the happening because even US 50 was not built yet. Am I right, you guys? Main Street was the highway. So this is where we all hung out. You've got more cars coming, which is, okay, you know, but we had, when we were children, we had a lookout person to let you know when somebody came by, so you knew about the place. But now, right up the street from me, they've had a water main break for God knows how long, okay? Even as the police cruiser hit the daggone wall. And that's pretty bad, isn't it? And he wasn't doing anything as far as speed or anything. He literally lost control and hit the wall. What happens that's what it does. It is so bad now, that water is literally seeping up out the road. Have you guys seen it? And there's mud all the time, 24/7. If, just say I'm going down the street, you're coming up like, God, please let me get past all this mud. But it is a hot mess,
Well,
no
what I'd like
joke.
to know, and our church is on the hill, right behind Pastor Ragley's church.
And since we're on that hill, it brings, it brings us, God, I want to know if my church is, in danger of slipping in any way, because it's right on the hill.
Based on our study, where our local borings were, I cannot tell you that. I can only tell you for the roadway itself, the limited boring. And I can make the geotech report available. It should be.
Who did the geotech report?
Get it back.
Atlas Consulting.
In your grant, the FEMA grant that you got for design, do you have enough money to get you to 100%?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah. Because we have design funding, well, it's, I say funding, it's a loan, it's a 0% loan for the water main design.
And how long do you think it'll take you to get to 100% design?
Right now, we're looking, like I said, about April to get 90%. 100% will be depending on right-of-way, utility, all that, so that and once we know construction, schedule, if we don't have any funding, there's no sense in really
I
getting.
get that.
But,
So April of next year, you probably will likely approach 90% design?
yeah,
And who did the permits come through? Is that the city or is that Hamilton County?
it'll probably,
Construction, if you get to that point.
land disturbance, probably the county. The county, then, well, be several permits, depending.
Has the county done any geotech work?
That I don't know. Yeah, I just know the study that Atlas did.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, I think your name's, Sean?
Sean, yes, ma'am.
Sean Gregg?
Riggs, R-I-G-G-S.
Okay, and what's your position?
I'm
Title,
the village engineer.
Village engineer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now, how did FEMA get in touch with you, to get this started?
We reached out to FEMA, every year they have a grant opportunity.
That's Addyston,
Addison, yes.
reached out to FEMA, okay?
Yeah, Mayor Mears and I, we started it. So we reached out to them and informed them of the situation that we thought warranted, would be eligible for a grant application to at least study. And they agreed.
Okay, so
Actually, we funded, it's a FEMA grant funded through the Ohio Emergency Management Office.
Okay, so it's only for the road, for the, water and so forth. What, the damage that's happening to the property on Sekitan and below, can we, or come to, here, get another, or find out who you're talking to, and we can call them or whatever? Is there any kind of way we can contact these people?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Because I don't think they really know the fullness of it. You're talking about, it's like a car, the transmission don't work, you know what I'm saying? And then you're fixing all the tires, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you gotta figure out how to do everything.
Right.
Because we still gonna have the problem. I believe she said the problem's in the middle, it's coming from the top, we're catching it at the bottom. So it's not making a lot of sense.
Well, our scope was very specific to Sekitan. We can still look at other avenues, and we can talk with FEMA and Ohio Emergency Management Office and figure out what else to do. But we were only looking at stabilizing Sekitan, more for an infrastructure reason than a private property.
When did you start this for FEMA? When did you start this?
2021?
Okay, I've called since then, but it's been since 21 to tell about the cracking
Yeah.
in our church and so forth.
I would say early 2022 is when we started getting notification. I
Yeah.
look back at email history, but
Yeah, I called. Plus my insurance company, they called, I gotta get back with them.
yeah, so, I mean, I'll be happy to help with looking at other options for other properties. It's just, like I said, this was very specific to Sekitan Avenue and the infrastructure associated with it.
So, since this is gonna take a while, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to do a lot of paving up there, in which he's talking about that hot mess, is there any plans to fill that in with gravel or anything? Cause it's like a creek bed.
Yes, ma'am. I'm not aware of one. It definitely could happen.
The village boss, so they come up there, throw something out there, walk up the street, I don't know. Seriously, if a person, I'm talking about a grown adult, or a child fell in it,
Yeah.
Addis would have one heck of a lawsuit.
Yeah,
And
that-
everybody, these guys, you all know what I'm talking about. It's a mess, and it's been like that.
My turn.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry.
Listen, my turn.
How long have you been the engineer for Addison?
I guess just about 4 years now.
Okay, my question is, other than that, how often has Addison applied for this grant? Yes.
We've only applied for this grant one time, that I'm aware of.
To the council members, how long have you known that Sekitan has been going downhill to just now apply for the grant?
And not that the people that
I mean, even if we, as Addistonians, have to get out and walk around our village to see what's going on and recognize the situation before it becomes a problem. Because now this is a big problem. And if you start drilling, will this affect the houses once the drilling starts with the vibration? Will that create more shifting of people's property?
Because these houses are older now.
And I think the problem actually started, because when I was a kid, I'm from Addison, we used to come from Three Rivers, the back way, and come down into Addison walking from the school. Now, once they start building those houses up there, I think, if there is houses, I don't know what's up on that hill now, I haven't been up here in ages. Would it cause the property to shift like that? I don't know what's up on that hill. I know it's got to be something up here besides woods.
Jack,
It's just fields.
it's the Gulch property, it's been uninhabited forever. He built one house that he lived in there.
Right.
So there's no houses on
That
the
house is
hill
gone.
that do that. He's torn that down. But I would like to concur with Ray. I've lived here all my life, played on Sekitan as a kid. There was no movement up there at all until a few years ago, till they took what some, just a normal guy said, we need to put in a little drain next to the wall. And after they took that out, that's when our problems began. And I want to be wary if in fact we don't learn from that and we don't put the swale back in. About 1 inch, the width of a shovel, took all that water away. Now the water is very evident that the water is coming down under the blacktop and began washing from that point. So, I mean, that's a little bit of the history as to where I believe this all began.
Yeah, because it washed out both sides of my house. And I put block in there. By the old police station, one day there was a path of water that wide running down the hill, knocked down the wall on Main Street. I mean, if you, when you see the rain come down through there, it's that wide running down.
Thank you for attending.
And like I said, when that swell was there, we didn't have any problems at all.
Had no
Is
problem.
there any easement along the north side of Sekitan behind the existing housing properties?
Mhm.
Like behind them, that we could do?
Behind the north
Yeah,
side,
yes. Like,
I only know
I
about.
mean, I know it goes into Gulf's
See,
property,
I
but,
just like
Right.
pull up.
I mean,
The property,
I feel like if you stabilize the road on the south side, you're just creating another problem. I don't know.
It doesn't appear that
I'm not a
there's.
geoengineer, but
I don't recall any easements on
it
that
just,
side of the road.
I'm concerned about what happens with all the water.
Yeah.
Well, there's a drainage that sits right next to our church, and when it rains, that thing is filled up
Yeah,
like
it
the
is.
river is coming
Yeah.
through there.
I know.
That's why I'm trying to find out why, Main Street is not included in
yeah, it's,
what you're doing with Sekitan.
Right, well, the drainage part will be. The
I was just
stabilization.
asking about if there's an area up further, where we could look at some other stabilization.
Yeah. I'm just looking at cages right now.
Instead of getting into private properties, as you mentioned earlier.
right, all the property on the north side.
I mean, there's a property line, I didn't know if there was any at all.
No, it butts
It
up
doesn't
to
appear.
all of Gulch's property. The only The only property that the village owns on the north side is like 13/6 up from the wall. They own all that, all the way down.
Also, too, I'd like to say, excuse me, I used to live up on Sekitan by what we call the post office steps. In 1997, it rained very hard, and it came off that hill, and it was like a whole new thing. I mean, I couldn't believe the water that had come off that
It was a
hill.
bad year of
And went
rain.
down the street, down the steps into, Main Street, one thing, wow, it was, and they hadn't been too long to put a wall up there. And the wall was like it was gonna come loose. I mean, it's still hanging in there, but there was something wrong on the hill.
Yeah.
But that was a record year,
That
97,
was.
right?
That was,
What did you
it
say?
was 97.
97 was a record
She
year,
said it was a
right?
record year, yeah, so it was.
That's one of the top 10 historic crashes.
I said,
Yeah.
The 64, 37 and 64.
Well, yeah, I mean, I understand that.
37, I know is the number one.
And 97, it
And
was 97,
97.
at work, because I was going to say that.
Yeah,
64 is when it was all the way up
This is
to
it.
the
close to the
highway.
hardware store.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it
The
was.
VFW and the school, and then that Veterans Park was right at the top of the steps.
And
I
it's
got pictures.
69.
That's cool.
It's been fixed.
Well, if and when the property, the Gulch property, I guess is what it's known as, if that ever is developed, that is something that definitely should be brought up.
It'll never develop because there's too much work up there for him to develop. He would have to do
Well,
about
maybe.
5 years of digging to clear out the property.
Yeah, but like I said, if and when it does, that is definitely an opportunity to make sure, well, they're required to address drainage anyway, if bounds runoff, pre versus post.
But see, up on that hill up there, there's natural springs up there.
Yeah.
You can walk up there right now, dry as can be, and step in mud.
So,
I've been up there for years.
putting the stable wall in on the south side, so directly where the rock walls are in those areas, people's yards, will those stop sliding, or will?
Well,
Is
I
it going
imagine
to
that-
stable that enough that those are going to
It
remain?
should, that's the intent. I cannot guarantee it will because it's so far removed from the wall, but the intent is that, you know, you stabilize where it's slipping at the roadway, that
Right,
anything.
you're trying to maintain the roadway.
Right.
I think a lot of people are concerned about their properties.
Right.
Yes. I mean, kind
Well, I
of.
mean, I
I get it, I got it.
Just-
Big property owner up there.
Thank you, Jason.
Right, I can't confirm that it would, but ideally, yes.
I mean, is that part of the geo
Yeah,
report, or are they just concentrating on the road?
Just concentrating on the road. That was all that was good.
Most all the houses up there have rock foundation.
Yeah, that's,
They're all, most of them are all Sears houses. They're Sears kids. So, yeah, they all have rock foundation. Most of them do.
now, since we're talking about the wall, is there any preference as to leaving it alone and putting something behind it to address the drainage? Or would it be okay if the wall was just replaced wholesale, new drain, tile, you know, just cleaned up?
Why is it that you got to replace this with?
There's some locations that are better conditions than others.
And this is like I don't remember when they built this wall. Danny, do you know when they built the wall?
So you're proposing possibly a poured cement
Uh,
wall? Or something?
Yeah.
Something, yeah, architectural block, it may be cast in place wall,
When they did the
level
wall,
of
we
construction,
did the wall.
They will tore that
and
wall
putting,
off.
That could help stable the properties. That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
but not shifting underneath it, that's the thing.
Right,
That's where the,
right, but if the road stop, that's not gonna slide there, it's
correct.
the wall area, is a big concern.
Theoretically, that would work, yes, but just,
It's a good idea.
Thank you for taking time to talk to us. This is to the council. Are you all planning on letting us know what is going to involve us, or is there any plans to let us know what's going on?
Yes, absolutely, moving
Well,
forward.
I appreciate it, because like,
Yeah.
right now, none of us even really think about this.
I'm sitting at the table.
Well, this, yes, I mean, honestly, yeah, I mean, I should have probably sent out a mailer, my apologies.
No, I'm just saying.
But this was something that was also mentioned in council like a month ago. I mean, honestly, anybody
I
could
don't
have
know
mentioned,
council
say,
on
hey,
that.
can
Now,
we mail
that's
that
it.
out?
I
That'd be
understand what you're
great.
saying, but
Yeah,
anytime something affects you or myself, I like to know.
yeah, absolutely.
I wanna
agree
know
with
what's
you.
going on, yes, I should have, but that's not the point. The point is, all of y'all up there, and no offense, except for you, it doesn't affect any of y'all. Am I right or wrong? Jennifer, right? You know up there, oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. She's talking about me. She's talking about me.
She can tell you, is that a mess with race?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
ugly.
Our street is,
I think it affects all of us Addistonians.
Yes,
We're all affected.
yes.
We're all
I mean,
we're all together.
And then we have the woods, we
Yes, it
have
does.
that, we got woods up here.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it like this. Obviously, Faye, if it affects you, it affects me, and it affects everybody around this table.
I would agree with that.
We
That's why we're all here.
didn't take control of or say, you know, the mayor said what she did, she put it on Facebook. It'll be, from now on, it'll be a part of all of us, once it comes to the table, to make sure that everybody is notified properly via flyer,
Through a
No,
mailer or
whatever,
something,
mailer,
and I
that's
think-
what I mean, yeah.
And we
Yeah.
should appreciate you guys for taking steps, and
Yes.
finding the problem and trying to fix it. We can
Yes,
appreciate it.
yes, yes.
As soon
Even
as
though
I,
it's been going on for a
honestly,
long
yes,
time.
as soon as I became mayor, I'm not joking, as soon as I became mayor, because I have family that lives up there. I lived up there as a kid. I grew up on Sekitan,
So,
and yes, I remember the little
swell,
rivet that
yeah.
was in there that would take away the water. So yes, that was the first thing that I started saying, hey, we've really gotta do some infrastructure here.
They
It's bad.
Second
So,
hand,
yeah.
I told them, if you don't put this well in, you're gonna have problems.
Exactly.
Exactly, there's no question about that.
Cause I remember
No
that
question.
being there, and yeah, it used to take away the water. I don't remember even when that disappeared.
Maintenance part, they didn't wanna clean.
Whenever we had the water problem up there, was that in 97?
I was gonna say in the late
Was that in the
nineties.
nineties?
Carol was still mayor.
See, I don't
Right,
remember.
right?
That was, Carol was mayor, and it was probably in like the 98, 99.
That's what I think, yeah.
Something like that,
They
because if you
resurfaced.
remember, when J.K. Mueller come in there to put the water lines in there, they broke the water lines, they
Yep.
broke the sidewalks. We entered into, or they entered into a lawsuit against us for the damage they caused.
Mhm.
And that's why the sidewalks are at different levels and things like that. And as far as like the last time it was blacktop, it was probably about that time.
Exactly.
And that's when they did take away.
They took away that
Those
little.
were-
Yep.
But a lot of
Yeah.
this come to surface too with the major water breaks that we had at the west end of Sekitan about 3-4 years ago.
It was
We were having-
2020.
We were having one big water break after another at
Three
that
in one
end.
year. So that really, that's when I got with, that's when I initially got with him, because I said, there's gotta be something really major going on. When you have that many breaks going on the road, you have places sinking in. I'm like, we have got to
I think
get
they got
into
water
this and
we
look
give
into
her
it.
Yeah. I mean, our side,
Come up the hill from Second Hand by the church, by the school, come up the hill.
Yeah.
I mean, our side's really bad. If you think, like, where I'm at, I'm at
I see it every
266.
morning when we Raleigh walk.
This side of it, the whole road is like
Yeah.
this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you
It's
know.
whether into your
And-
car, you don't get thrown into the wall.
Right, you get, like, you literally get thrown. If there's a car parked there, you're in trouble. Like,
That's
you
true.
are in
You're right.
trouble. Now that my neighbors are gone, it's the best thing in the world.
Yes.
I hate to say it because they're gone, but that's the best thing because their cars are gone.
Right.
But, I mean, and the mud that accumulates from there is, you know, we've had to have Addyston come up and scoop it.
Yeah, we've been doing that now
And,
then.
you know,
It just
because
comes
it
right
gets
back.
so
I don't know why,
caked.
just for a temporary fix, I don't know why they don't blacktop that, just kind of level it out some.
I mean, it's so, I mean, it's so bad, because the smell gets so bad, the bugs get so bad, the water,
At least try
like,
to
it's
adjust
just
them the problem.
Band-Aids and Band-Aids and Band-Aids and Band-Aids.
I
So,
agree,
it's-
Ray, that this
all you can do
project
is
is
just
not guaranteed.
Deal with it.
So we should be looking at some sort of temporary
Yeah.
thing, because that,
That would be nice.
that's bad.
so we
I mean,
can
it's a
drive
bad
it. Yeah.
I
situation.
mean, what would it take to
Yeah,
put
that
some kind
was
of swell in there? And then like that one area, fix that low area where all that mud is at.
Do something.
Because, like I said, 'cause, yeah, that water ran right down to the drain down the hill, and it ran the other way to the drain.
When it rains, that water, our sidewalk is this high.
Yeah.
This
John,
high.
I know you're trying to fix this, but is there anything you can do as a temporary to help with the road repair? This
I mean,
is a
there's-
temporary patch.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's, I mean, from a
Is that
design
something you could help
standpoint.
address
easy. You know, it just costs money, and that's quite a bit of money for the village.
Yeah.
So that's something you know, we can look into, look at other avenues.
Part of a FEMA maybe, or no?
Well, FEMA won't help with that because it's just an interim solution, to address a roadway issue. Now, OPWC, maybe Hamilton County, they may have some funding to help just patch the roadway,
So
but.
it's drivable without, because it does rock the vehicle.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's feasible that the road could become impassable
Yeah.
as it
Getting
deteriorates
there.
like it could. So you gotta figure out something.
And the first time you see someone that doesn't know the road, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Like, if they've never been on that road before, to watch them drive right there, it's scary.
If you ever get an opportunity, one day when it's gonna be storming real bad, go up on Sekitan and watch that water.
I have, it's been a while. I'm trying to come out here during the good
It's tough, but it's always in the middle of the night.
Yeah, it is always 3 in the morning.
I'll call you, give me your number.
There's nothing better than sleeping on Sekitan, but at the same time.
You'll be surprised as what I do. I'm like a storm chaser. I'm like, oh, I gotta go out and go look.
I do the same thing, go down and watch the storm. Anyway.
But yes, we can look at finding some funding to make a temporary fix. To do the wall though, to swell on the backside, I mean, it'll be sort of a Band-Aid.
I know.
But
What about, after you have final design plan, if, you know, if it all gets approved, and how long would it take to start construction there? Is it immediate, or is it another 6 months? I mean,
Once
I'm
we
sure you
have-
to schedule it.
once we have funding, I would say it's probably, well, that's the thing,
6 to
once you get
12
awarded,
months.
all the paperwork that goes along with it, especially if it's federal.
By 6 to 12 months.
I'm gonna say 12, but probably 6.
Okay.
Just to get all the agreements, then going to bid and with it being potentially a federal funded project, it's a minimum of like 3 months. Okay. Time you advertise, award, get council approval, get the contract signed.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Another question, I guess is mainly to the council, is if somebody rides over Sekitan where that road's bad at, and they're not familiar with it, and it rips the bottom of their car out, who's gonna be responsible?
Is that county or village?
Well, I mean,
And that's the village approach.
that's,
You ever been up there, honey?
Okay,
No.
better put a drive slow,
Yeah.
or put a brake sign or something.
yeah.
That's
So to
when I
make
pull
this
my
a
car all the way
larger,
this way.
to make this a larger scale, I guess, for the
That's why I
village
just don't
county.
understand why they don't try to quick fix the blacktop that hole there, because, like I said, if somebody comes up through there, and they have a regular car, you have to get over a little bit, you can rip your muffler and everything off.
Don't come in a little small car.
So to make this project a larger scale for them to look at Main Street as well as Sekitan, is that something that the village would apply for, or do we need to do that on our own personal? And possibly seek, you know, advice of an attorney or something like that?
It's something the village would look at if there appears to be a real cause there, and not anybody discrepancy, anybody, you know, something, it has to be looked at, the facts have to be looked at to see if it's worthy. That's a lot of money, as you
That's a
know.
lot, we know.
And if it was affecting you like it's affecting people on Sekitan, we'd spend the same amount of money. I think we all feel the same way
Yeah.
about
I
that.
think,
But
I think that putting in the south side, it will help Main Street a lot of that, his engineer peers. But I'm concerned about the other side of the road on Second, but I think what they're proposing will actually probably help Main Street. Again, I'm not a geotech, but I understand it.
already happened.
It's already there, yes, it's unfortunate that, I don't know anything about that section of it.
But,
I think the plan would help.
the wall on the north side, you know,
That's a concern.
whenever a rock comes loose, either the village
Things
takes
stop
it,
it there because there's
takes it up
so
to
much
the water tank, or the people who live across the street use it to hold the basketball courts up, or they build
They let it
fire
roll
pits in
back
the
down
backyard.
again, huh?
Well, I just noted in our, when we get revised plans, to go ahead and include replacing the wall. A lot of times, especially, you know, depending on the property, but they're really bonded with the wall.
What about a rebuilt concrete rock wall, cement?
We can probably do something like that.
Keeps it more original look.
Yeah, yeah.
Instead
I
of
mean,
the
they
hour
have,
block stack, I don't think people are gonna go for that.
they have,
But
you know, that's just a cost, budgetary wise, we'll see where we end up. But there's options to make it aesthetic. We can do, form liners where it looks like rock walls. We can do, ready block, the big block walls, they're more, you know, little, yeah, oh, they're nice. So there's a lot of options, and I don't wanna throw out any one, but I can definitely look at making it more aesthetic than just a straight run of concrete.
okay.
I was born down there, but I was there, and I brought my wife down and we did Sekitan. And I was just showing her, and the whole Sekitan is flat.
Yeah.
It's flat. It looks like, you go straight, it's going like this.
Into Main Street.
It's, everything is happening behind that hill. This is where your whole thing is starting from, behind the hill. You can put a wall there, a wall in place there, and it's still a brick wall, they're gonna push it down, because it ain't got nothing down there to make it thin. If you put the piers up ahead, behind there, and put a wall behind them piers, and put your drain pipe, big drain pipe behind there, it'll catch all that water and put it to the sewer.
Yeah.
That'll cause a lot of trouble from Sekitan slide. And this slide is gonna slide on down the main street.
Yeah.
That's well, it had everything to do with it.
Yeah.
Cause I've lived up there for 35 years.
Definitely didn't help.
It did not help.
And,
Didn't help.
once they took this spot, that's when everything went downhill.
And it just keeps going.
God's on the street.
But you also gotta look at too, look at all the houses that used to be up there in the day that are gone now.
Yep.
So that has a lot to factor into it too. There used to be houses all the way down on each side.
On both sides.
So now there's not as many houses up there anymore, so you don't have the foundations of these houses or the houses there to hold the road back like you used to. I mean, like, I grew up here, so I know Sekitan, and it was houses as far as you do, all the way up and down the street.
You're right.
Now they're gone. There's not as many houses up there
Build some
anymore.
Build some. Yeah.
But I agree with you. It's the swell, but a lot of those houses are gone now too.
Get the foundation.
That factors into it as well as the trees and the shrubbery
Well,
and everything else.
if you don't kill the vegetation by the road, then that's that too. So the village shouldn't break weed killer because they don't wanna do their job to cut the grass.
That is a good observation about the houses. In fact, if you noticed in the plans, on the first area of the wall, there's actually an existing wall there. It's by the church on, I guess that's the far west part of Sekitan, west of Bowman. There's already a wall there. It's not a deep foundation wall like a pier wall, but it did provide some stability. You can start seeing, if you go out there now, you start seeing it leaning, and it's probably separated about that much. So it worked. It wasn't a permanent fix. So there's one area. The other area is where actually, as you mentioned, there's only one structure, one story frame house on lot 269 Sekitan, within that whole run of that next long wall that's there. Everything else has been demolished or never constructed. So there was housing, which you're probably right, that the foundations that were supporting it, supporting the road, and maybe that's why they were demoed.
There's still
because
rock.
it's lit.
You go up there, there's still rock foundation.
I was gonna say, a lot of the foundations are still there.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
So they are reinforced now with real trees and vegetation, so. And I don't know to what degree the wall is leaning. It doesn't show to me that it's leaning, the wall is leaning itself. It's the wash under the road that I feel like is most responsible.
As well, I tell you, as well, it worked wonders.
Yeah. And that is, and
I think it's a good
all the
start.
Sekitan,
Just gotta figure out the water drain.
yeah, and all the Sekitan is not unstable. There's only a parts of it that are showing stability issues. So, and that's what we're really focusing on. Like I said, the rest we'll look to do address drainage and other things, because you have to, unfortunately, where the it's almost at the top part of Sekitan is where the structure, the stability issues are.
That's why I put, up by my wall, I put a block up there. So when it rained, it ran on the sidewalk.
Take care,
It
Chairman.
run by my house and run down to my neighbor's house and it runs through their yard. And then the guy that lives on, Main Street, Bernard Thomas, he had to put sump pumps to pump the water out. And that's after they took the swell out. That's when Bernard started having problems.
Well, I definitely made a note of that too.
The utility poles, you're proposing just to shift them across in the affected areas, you're not gonna do it, or are they gonna do the whole road?
Well, Duke is doing that, and they're looking, at what they indicated to us
Still
at that
planning.
meeting, it's just in the area boxing around. There will be some areas where I think the tree line gets really close to the right of way there, or there's quite a bit of right of way actually, on that north side. But that's where the poles will be, so they'll have to do some, tree clearing, making them pass for the overhead. But that is, they're designing that now. I wish I had their sketch of what they're proposing to do, but they're looking into it.
So I guess, we're gonna have to deal with water for the next 3 years at least.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Like I said, I'm not gonna give up on getting this funded. I think it's something that FEMA, Ohio Emergency Management, they thought was a worthy project. I'm sure others will. We had to get enough information to present to them that, oh yeah, it's not just a perceived problem. It's truly a slip. We have a geotech study to document it.
You come up here in the winter time where the roads all down through, and it's like a skating rink, it just freezes.
Yeah, I bet snow removal's tough on that road. Like a Zamboni just.
Well, well, it's just, but where that road's all get down, that just fills up with water and freezes.
And bust it up and makes the problem even worse.
You just slide right across it.
So are there plans of another meeting before the final 90% is submitted in, on 4/19/24?
We can definitely do that, yeah.
Yes, ma'am, that would be my intent. Once we get a good handle on the plans, we'll make a recommendation to move forward. Then at that point, we'll have like, say 60, like today's 30%, we'll have like 60% plans. So we'll be able to show more of the drainage, to show the more details and where the wall would be, and potentially on the north side even. We'll have the utilities to show at that point.
Will this be,
I know that,
public access?
she said she does Facebook. Will we get a letter? I don't look at Facebook.
I don't, it's whatever the
Yeah.
village.
Yes, we'll send you out a letter.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we received the last letter, after the date of the meeting.
Which letter was that?
It was about the school,
About the music in the park?
Yeah.
Well, if you're still interested, we have a meeting tomorrow night.
That should have been put in their box right away. Didn't go outside.
When I first started, we just pointed out.
I do know that the letters
we
went out
drove around
over a
them.
month
Yeah, we
ago,
drove
because I
around
did
and
mail
dropped
them myself. And I don't know if we didn't have a good address for you or not, but usually when I deliver something to the postmaster, she won't send it downtown. She'll cancel the date stamp and she'll put it right in the box.
See you, Jason. Take care.
I did.
So,
Did you say you have a meeting tomorrow night?
well, we're, yes,
At 5:30.
5:30?
Yeah, for the music in the park, is that what you're referring to?
yes.
Here?
Yes.
It's open to the public if you're interested.
Yeah, all meetings are.
But your paperwork is being shared.
Yeah, that one was mailed out.
No, and we physically dropped things.
Hey, Dan. Hey, Dan.
We did.
Dan.
And we physically went to every location.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Like me and Greg was talking, he said when he moved up there, that swell was in there, he had no problem.
That's great.
Yeah.
And after they blacktop it, that's usually.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta drive up on the sidewalk and they have grades that
Yes,
don't.
It seems simple, but it sure was effective.
The one nice thing about that swell, keeps people from flying up and down that road. It slows them down.
They don't slow the street down.
When they fly by my place,
Does anyone have any photos of what it looked like before, when the swale was there?
I don't know if the village does or not.
Well,
But what it was,
we
it was
may-
along the
we,
wall.
I could probably locate the former,
The plans for, that would be helpful.
yeah.
Almost like
I
they
know,
said, it
Sean,
like
it
a
was, it
shovel
was
length wide.
Smith, Leisman,
about this.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Deeper than that.
who were the engineers at that time.
Okay.
And then I think, Leisman went out on his own later, Steve.
Yes, Steve.
Went out on his own later, but I know that it was, I think they might have ended up shutting shop or something, but I know where I can locate them.
Okay, that'd be great. Any documentation what it was before, so we can, as just even an
It might not
interim
be
fix?
the actual pictures, but I do know that, like, when it went out to bid and different things like
Yeah.
that, those records are kept, they're
Yeah.
not,
That'd be good to have. Whatever information will definitely help.
Did anyone have anything else they'd like to address with Sean pertaining to the Sekitan only?
Thank you.
If not,
Most definite, thank you for getting this fixed for us and looking at it.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you, Mayor.
I wish this could have happened sooner, but
trust me,
it's
I've
been,
been up there since.
we've been working on it. It's been a lot of effort trying to just find money to even get this far.
Thank you.
Well, if there's no more questions, unless you do.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yep.
I second.
We'll have a motion to adjourn by Dan Villa, seconded by Jennifer Anderson.
Dan Pillow,
Yay.
Jennifer Weehee, Jennifer Anderson, Ann Pillow,
Yay.
Pam Jackson.
Yay.